Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm bringing you into one of our lessons. So to start with, here we have a change of equipment. We will have rubber bell boots, and we will have some woofwear brushing boots. And I did make a change because one, the tack was getting really dirty, and two, it's really muddy outside, so I'm looking for something that's going to be a little bit more durable over time. So these rubber bell boots are pretty great when you have to deal with a lot of mud, just because it doesn't get into the fabric of the boot whatsoever. It just slides off once it's dry. And the same with those brushing boots that I'm gonna put on. So they are neoprene, and they have like two velcros, little straps on it, but the inside of the leg is made out of Kevlar kind of lining, and it's really easy to clean. You just have to like rub it with a brush once it's dry, and it's gonna basically come off. And that's to compare to my Pro Choice boots that I used to wear. I used to put on her, that were a little bit more like a carpet type of feel, so they do absorb moisture and they do also retain dirt a little bit easier. So I find this is a nice change of tack here, and it really made a difference just because it's very muddy. It's been raining quite a bit in the last week, like the week prior to that video, and so the mud is quite intense out there. So as you can judge by my winter jacket, it's actually fairly cool that night. So I am just gonna go over and brush her. I folded her sheet halfway, and I'm just going to a quick grooming. As she wears, basically, she always wears a sheet or a blanket. She's never too dirty. Just a little quick brush does the trick. So once again, before every lesson, there's a lot of rushing happening. I have to prep my horse as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. So here I am, already putting in the saddle pad and putting the saddle. I'm removing the little stirrup covers and the cover of the saddle. And as I've said in previous videos, I have to put my stuff away as soon as I, like basically before I actually start riding, just because they need to use what's in the big bin where I put all my stuff. And what's in that big bin is basically the feed for the horses, and they'll need to do a nighttime feed. And usually what they do is they feed all the other horses, and while Hazel and I have a lesson, they just leave me the prepared like food in a bucket so I can actually give it to her once she's back in her stall. So I'm tightening the girth. It might seem a little bit like rough or like a little bit tight, but it's actually not. There's a rubber band right in the middle of her girth, which makes it not too tight on her. And I'm taking the time to just stretch her leg forward and make sure that there's no pulling of her skin between the girth and basically her armpits. So that really helps to make sure that she's in a good mood later on when I want to get on. So same thing with the sheet. I just noticed that something was off with the little tail cord. It seemed like it had broken off, so I was just looking into that. It seemed like it was missing a part, and I was like, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but yeah, it just seemed like she broke off one of the sides where the tail cord used to hang from, which is not a big deal. Like, it's easy to fix. And that being done, I have to put everything away. So finishing up the grooming real quick. We still have some sticky muddy spots to clean up, and then we'll be ready to go. So I had brought a little plastic bag from my house just because I knew I wanted to pick up those dirty boots. As you can see, they're pretty dusty and has a lot of sand in it. I've been lunging outside, Hazel outside for the past 2 weeks, and it was also muddy back then, so it just accumulates a lot of mud. And now I'm putting my boots on. So these are the Ariat Vermont winter boots that my coach lent me for me to try. So I'm just putting those guys on. Really comfortable boot, really warm. I'm quite fortunate that my coach and I kind of share the same size of shoes, and that's basically how we met. I went to see one of her boots on sale, and that's how we met, and she later became my coach. So now I'm trying her winter boots and see if I want them or I would need them for the winter. I really like them on my ride, but we did have an issue with the zipper at the end of the ride. That you'll see further on in the video. The zipper kind of undid itself, so I don't know if it's actually like the zipper that's the issue, or if my calf might be a little bit big. I'm not too sure, but yeah, one of the side of the zipper got undone. So I am almost ready. As soon as I put most of the tack on my horse, I'm just getting myself ready. So I went back to the tack room to just grab my whip and my gloves, and I will also put my helmet, and I will be myself ready. And I do all of that before putting the bridle on. So we're actually like ready to go and take off and go to the lessons. I am just putting more stuff away, and then I'll put my helmet, and then I'll be ready to go. So after putting as much stuff away as I can, I just proceed with the bridle, and I will put the draw reins, I will pick up my whip, and those are pretty much the last few steps. So overall, tightening the bridle is pretty good, but I find that putting the flash is a little bit hard. Sometimes just because it's new, it's like new leather, so it's not as pliable as the rest of the bridle. So we're still working on just getting it a little bit more supple, so it's easier for me to tie it properly. So once the bridle is in, it's time to put the draw reins. They are a little bit tangled, so I'm just going to detangle them and go and proceed. So you always put it at the lower point on your bit. So your normal rein should be above your draw reins, and then I tie them up at the bottom of her girth. And that will help to do the little motion. So basically it helps to tuck their head in a little bit, or their nose in a little bit, if you pull on it. So really important. If you have to do anything that has to do with drawings, I strongly advise that you get a coach, and if it is referred by your coach and you do have good hand, or a good hand if you will, then in that case you can proceed. It is not a great tool if you don't have a soft hand. So this is us just after the mounting block, and as you can see, Hazel had a little bit of a emotional tantrum going on here, so I'm just calming her down quickly. See, she basically let me sit on her, and then she just took off, and then she just started not being really that obedient. So what I do usually when that happens is, first you have to stay calm, and two, I get her to bend one way or the other. If she is really riled up, I will do a one rein stop. So that means you'll pull their neck or their head on one side, and you'll try to get them to do a circle as tight as possible, and eventually that will stop them. So that's a good like safety tip if ever your horse takes off on you, is to try to get them to do the smallest circle possible. Obviously you don't want to jerk your hand and just try to get them to obey you. You just really want to gradually try to make your circle tighter if that's possible, or if not, if you have no choice, just pull on one side. So as you can see, she really calmed down fairly quickly. So what I do also to get her to focus on me is to get her to bend as much as possible. So I'll bend her on one side, bend her on the other, and try to get her attention that way. You can get them to back up. That's also a good thing to do. It could be, you could be on the ground doing that, or you can be riding and doing that, and that really helps them to focus. It takes them a lot of focus to kind of get them to back off. They have to figure out where their legs are gonna go, and sometimes they're really busy with that, and they forget all about the whole emotional part of the situation, which really helps a great deal. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just getting her to bend a little bit, getting her to back up at certain points. So horses are really great animals, but they're also very sensitive and emotional beings. So it's okay for Hazel to have basically a little bit of a like tantrum, as long as it's not exasperated, or if it's not like all out, and it's not for a long period of time. Like I will allow her to just have a little bit of a moment for a minute or two, but then beyond that, it's basically okay, you gotta pay attention to what I'm asking you to do as the rider, just so like that they pay attention to you, and then you have the respect that you need, because they're big animals and you don't want to get bucked off or reared, or some of those non-wanted like scenarios. So you really want to have them under control as quick as possible, while kind of letting them like live their emotion a little bit. So it's a fine balance. But with Hazel, because I've been riding her for 5 years, almost 4 years now, we got a pretty good understanding. Like I know exactly how to handle her, which makes it a little bit easier for me. So once I had the horse under control, it was time for us to start the trot, and as you can see, she's offering a nice trot, very well balanced, and a good rhythm as well. So her trot is definitely getting like way better. Her head is already starting a little bit lower than used to at the beginning, which is really helpful. And then as time goes, we're gonna ask her to collect a little bit more and tuck her head in a little bit more, and give us more of that collection. But so far, for about 2 months of work, it's actually really good. She's progressing nicely, and she's a very fast learner. For those of you that have been following us for a little bit, you have probably noticed that we always worked her in a circle, or a different set of circles. It could be a 20-meter circle, it could be a 10-meter circle. Sometimes you do spirals, so in and out of the circle, making it smaller, making it bigger. And the reason why we're doing that is to gain control of the horse and also teach them to have a good rhythm. So the next phase after that is to do the straight lines, and as you can see here, the lines are not that straight. It's the first time we're asking her to go to the center line and go as straight as possible between the point A and point C, which is a little bit challenging for us. We're definitely learning to put her straight. So what happens is, if I'm asking her to go forward, she will lean on one side or the other, so one leg or the other, and then therefore if I react, she's gonna go the opposite way, and then therefore we can't get a straight line. So you will see in this exercise here that we're asking her to go to the center line at multiple times to just get her to just become a little straighter. So we'll go on both lead and try to get that line as straight as possible. This is the first time we do that exercise there, so that's why you might see her like kind of moving back and forward a little bit. So as you can see, she's drifting a little bit on one side and the other. My coach is basically instructing me to try to keep my hands together and try to just give her a little bit of a sense of direction depending on which side she leans on. The lines are going to get definitely better with practice and time. Even today, like the video was filmed about a week ago from today, and it's already much better. Definitely the more you do it, the better it is. So after doing a few center line exercises and a few circles on both sides or both leads, it was time for us to kind of try to push her into a canter. So that will be the other exercise I will do in the other part of this video, is to work on her canter. Take note that this is the second time we're basically working on the canter in a lesson, so we're just trying to get the right rhythm and get her to pick up the canter without going into a fast forward trot, which might happen as she's young, she's still learning. We just really want to make sure that she's not fast forwarding the motion and that she is actually just picking up the canter from the trot without any in between gaits. So there was a few tries to get her to pick up the canter. So we're just doing a little walk break here, but I'm just going to explain it to you. So there was a few tries that we did to try to get the canter at the right time. And at the beginning, I had a hard time to just get her to pick it up. It was just getting into a fast forward, elongated type of trot. So it was just really hard to get her to just pick it up. So what happens is, if you tried and it doesn't work, try to bring your horse to the gear, like lower gear. So if you try and it's not working, bring your horse back into a collected trot so you can try again. You want them to pick up the canter from the collected trot and not to like a fast forward, out of control type of trot. So it's really important that they understand that we're not asking them to go fast forward, we're just asking them to pick up the next speed. And it takes a little bit of work, especially on one side. Like I said in previous videos, there's always a side that's a little harder to do things than the other, and that's normal. Like they do have like two sides of their brains, if you will. So both sides of the brain work kind of together and individually. So yeah, that's why you have like different results on both sides, and that's why it's also very important if you're training a horse to do it on the both sides. So basically, yeah, so if it picks up the fast forward trot, bring them back into the collected trot, try it again at a different point, a new circle, and then eventually they will pick it up. So very important thing before you work your canter, you really want to make sure you have a good working trot, a good collected trot. In our case here is we're lacking a little bit of bend in our trot, and also I was making my circles a little bit too tight, and it was not allowing like a full motion of the leg, of the shoulder blades. And that's why my coach is asking me to go basically almost midway in the arena and just make a bigger circle to allow like the full movement. So here you can see I just gave her the first signal to go to a canter, and she kind of fast forwarded, and I'll do it again. So I'm trying here again. She's picking up speed but not the canter yet, so that's not good. So bring her back into a regular trot. The head's at the right place, her mind's at the right place, and I'm asking her again, and yet again we didn't get it because she did fast forward. So we're gonna try at a different point in the circle. So I'll go right in that corner here, and then I'm gonna ask her to canter a little bit and see what happens. So give her a full turn and try again. So eventually, once her rhythm is settled, her head is at the right place, and you ask at the right point in the circle, it really helps to get the canter going. So here we had a start, and finally I just pushed her into it. I just thought she maybe didn't understand what I was asking for. So eventually we got the canter, and it was definitely much better. So here we have it, the canter is finally there. You will see it's not the most perfect canter ever, but it's at least a canter from the trot, which is what we're asking her to do. We will have definitely more work to do into the collection and all of that later on in the canter, like as soon as we are cantering. But this is the second time we're doing it in the lesson, so eventually over time we'll keep on asking more of her. Right now we have to get a good rhythm in that canter. Like it's good, but it could be a little bit better. So trying the canter for a second time here, and she's doing a little bit better at picking it up, but I have a hard time getting her to bend and reach the outer space of the circle that we're trying to make. And that is like nothing new. Like I've tried to canter her myself the weekend prior, and I had a hard time getting her to bend into an actual nice circle on that side, on taking that lead of the that lead. So as soon as I pick up this side of her basically and try to go in that direction, that's when she cuts the circle a little bit more than on the other side, which you'll see in a second. So same thing here, I asked her to just go around in the different lead. So we're on the other side here, and that's her better side, if you will. So that's the side that's easier for us to work on. And you will see that the canter was actually fairly easy to pick up on that side compared to the other. So if you're paying attention to her head carriage, it's actually doing much better on this side too. It's not as, like, the nose is not as forward, it doesn't want to go up as much on this side. She's definitely more manageable on that side. Beautiful trot, like extended trot on this case. And eventually I'll ask her to go into a canter. Once again, before picking up a canter, work on your rhythm, work on your collection, and as soon as you feel like you have a good contact, you can try to get to the next speed. So here I felt that she had a good contact, and she ended up being okay for her first part of the canter. Although same thing, like, it's still a work in progress when it comes to pushing her off my leg, but at least she's picking up a canter, which is what we're asking her, so it's not the worst case scenario. So since Hazel has been really good in the lesson, although she started a bit like a fire-breathing dragon, she did really good during the lesson. She was paying attention and she worked really hard. So we're giving her a good relaxation time here, and it's going to be time to pack it up, and a good cooling time. So I just want to show you guys how long it takes to cool a horse at this time of year. So it does take a fair bit. They have a little bit of hair, so you have to make sure that they are actually properly warmed up and properly cooled down before you can call it a day. So what I do with the cool down is, obviously you're trying to get their heartbeat to go a little bit at a lower pace. So with just a nice walking, I can do a little bit of like lead changes if I want to change the lead, or I also like to do side passes, backing them up, like something that is not like really demanding when it comes to like stamina or something like that. Those are the things I like to do. In this case, she was really good, so I'm just giving her a long rein here and just letting her stretch as far down as she wants with her head. She did really good. The great thing about Hazel is when she's pretty much cooled down, she'll let me know. She just shows me that she's like basically bored and she just wants to move on and do something else, and that's when I usually stop, because I know she's gonna be thoroughly cooled down and ready to move on to the next step. So she just showed me by her like attitude and the way that she is, that she's like basically done. She'll try to stop a little bit on you and things like that, and that just shows me that she's like ready to move on to something different. So the lesson's already over. I'm just going over what Hazel has on. So the first step that I do when I'm done my lesson is to let her open up her mouth a little bit here. So just taking that flash strap off, loosening it, and the same with the drawrings. I want to remove that as much stuff of her face as possible. Some people like to loosen the equipment in the ring, but since there was already another horse and I actually have to travel to another barn after we're done the lesson, so there's actually like, she's not part of the barn where there's the arena. I have to walk her outside. I feel like it's a bit more secure if I just do everything at the end. If ever she decides to run off, take off, or whatever, I have at least a good grip on it, and then usually they're not as challenging when they're not like loosened up here and there, so it's a little bit better for everybody. So the first thing I do is take care of her. So I'm removing her bridle, loosening up everything, and then I'll take care of myself, because I am warm in those boots, and my helmet also is keeping my head really warm, but the horse comes first when it comes to that. So I'm making sure that everything is loose, remove all of that, and she'll feel much better as soon as she gets her halter on. So as you can see here at the back of my calf, you can see that the zipper there either got undone or I don't know, it just doesn't really work great. It just came off like that. So I like the boots, but I would say maybe look at the zipper. These, like I said, are the Ariat Vermont winter boots. Really great for the heat, but for in my case, I don't know why my calf was not cooperating with the situation here. So that's already it for our video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hazel and I had a great lesson time. We do have our lessons at the same time as we used to do it in the summer, but therefore now the sun goes down a little sooner, so that's why everything is a little darker. So I hope you guys appreciate it nonetheless. We're really happy to have you on board with us in our dressage journey, and I'll say bye for now, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye.